And then what's really great is that it's mostly unstructured violence, unstructured evil. It's just kind of like a non-organization. We're in this completely disorganized thing, which really helps make the Empire seem like this mighty force, because they are like an organized evil and an organized like force of destruction. So every time we cut back to them, we just, it brings this totally different atmosphere of suits, uniforms, like just organization. And like when Grand Moff Tarkin blows up Alderaan, it feels like, although we have no connection with that planet, it feels like the most dastardly thing that somebody could do, because it's like, it's completely in the name of something that is like in the name of this organization. It's a plot that, again, nobody cares about it, but they're like, yeah, we're all totally fine with this. We're all committed to this because this is what we're signed on with.
Man, it's because Peter Cushing can play evil so well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, he was, rest in peace, Peter. He's one of the greats.
We also know that this moment has a lot of weight because it like shakes Carrie Fisher out of her British accent.
Oh much. Man, that's one of the things that drives me craziest about this. Like, they could have got it in an edit. Star Wars loves their voiceovers. They love them. The amount of, like, especially pilots where it's one actor does the body and then another actor who doesn't have the same accent does the voiceover. Man, throughout the entire franchise. Mm-hmm. Man, give her one accent. Come on. Just one.
Yeah, but it's really cool because, I don't know, it's like this idea of like she's so... I actually didn't mind it because like once that happens, she's out of it. And it's kind of like, maybe it was like this performance choice where she is so regal and so like, you know, this is how a princess sounds. But then immediately once her home world is threatened, it's like she's out of it. And she breaks out of that idea. Yeah, exactly. She drops that act.
I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board. The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
I have chosen to test this station's destructive power on your home planet of Alderaan.
No, Alderaan is peaceful. We have no weapons. You can't
You will prefer another target, a military target? Then name the system.
Some rescue. You came in here. Did you have a plan for getting out? Somebody has to save our skins.
No, that's a good way to look at it. I never thought of it like that. I always just was so frustrated.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one.
I would choose to believe that.
Yeah, well, in this way, let's face it, in this world of like where so many things in Star Wars are so frustrating, sometimes when you watch something like that and you kind of realize, wait, it does change. There's this weird shift, and it seems intentional. And even with this movie, it's one of those things where like, even if there's something that's like seems grating, it's not like, this movie is so good on its own that I'm not upset with it. It's like, okay, here's a little problem. It's not pulling me out of the movie. Yeah. It's not making me feel...
She still delivers a great performance.
Yes, she does. Especially once the whole Death Star sequence happens. Like,
oh man.
I'm getting a little ahead of this because I do want to talk about one of my favorite moments in this movie, where it's like, what's really cool about A New Hope too is that it can be like one of the best background movies you can put on. Like when you're just doing stuff, you can throw it on the background, which is kind of how I watched it for the last few years. But there's always one scene where I will always watch it. And that's when Luke is like, when they're doing the chess or the game set in the back with the Millennium Falcon, when Luke is training with that, you know, blaster thing, when Han is, you know, just going back and forth and saying, like, he's talking about religion, and he's talking about you're basically receiving his character information from himself. It's one of my favorite parts because you're seeing Luke already just like totally believing this concept of the Force and so excited about it. Like a kid.
So bought in.
I'm just so like invested. Like, Ben is my ride or die. I'm going to totally go with that guy forever. There's this really great establishment of character in this sequence. And Ben doesn't like snipe too much at Han. He doesn't give him a philosophy exam or just debate him. He's just kind of quiet for most of it. And even C-3PO and R2-D2 are invested with it. They're engaged, and R2 is being a dick to Chewie in this game. It's so great. It's great, and it's, you know, one of the hardest things to do to talk about Star Wars at least in this movie is to break down. This is the best part of character when it comes to the construction of an arc and everything like that. it's just so fun to talk about all the moments and the parts of this that just are so great. And it's hard to even explain why, because it just is obvious why.
When I don't know, it's like you look at like the small things where, like, they're playing that weird chess game against I almost said Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca. That's the actor's name. And then, he's getting all mad, and they're like, oh, maybe we suggest that, we let the Wookiee win. That's not important, but it's so important at the same time. Cause like, just for some reason I get that. And then when he says that and you see, like, Chewbacca kind of sit back, he's like, yeah, I got this now. And it's like, the small things like that. It's like, that's why we love the movie. That's why we always get drawn back. It's the small, subtle things.
We get it. We get an understanding of who Chewbacca is, so that when we see him later, like when Luke tries to put the cuffs on him and he growls at him, it's like, don't you dare. Don't you even think about it.
It always reminded me of a dog, where it's like, oh, this person can clip their nails, but nobody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember again, I forgot, how did they get to the Death Star? I always remember, okay, so they were on the desert, and then they go to the Death Star because the movie happens. I always forgot what brings them there. And it's like, they go to Alderaan and it's not there. Completely gone. And then when they're just flying through space, and then they see a lone pilot, and the realization's like, that pilot, that's a short range fighter. How could it be out here in the middle of nowhere?
Realization when Ben figures out that it's what it is. I think that's one of my favorite parts of this film. Like, he just stops. It's just like, it's not a moon, that's a space station. Just like, man, every time I watch that, I get scared for him, because it's just so believable. Like, just, again, it's such a great actor, but it's like, you're sitting there, and it's like, you're getting pulled towards a thing called the Death Star. There's nothing you can do. And so no matter how many times you've seen that movie, it's always a little anxious. Man, great scene.
Yeah. When they get onto the Death Star too, like, I love the entire time they're on the Death Star. How they get in, how they breach it, how they get, what is it? Even when Darth Vader, like, comes to kind of check it out, and he just stops and he's like, I sense something. This is really odd feeling. Like, it's like Darth Vader knows something's up.
Well, it's like, you even look when he talks about, he's like, his words are there. I feel something I haven't felt since. Then he walks away, because he realizes that I haven't felt this since somebody cut off my legs. But it's like, just the way he storms off with power. It's like something's going down.
Yeah.
They just don't see him all of a sudden until, a scene we'll discuss in a few minutes.
Yeah. It's really cool, because there's a very big difference that I think this is one reason why I think it's so cool for kids to see, is because you see the younger people doing this big action, breach and clear kind of thing. It's like, we're going to, do all the action stuff. We're going to sneak in. We're going to take everybody's stuff. We're going to go. And then we're going to go in, and we're going to clear out the spots so that we're a little bit clear of, anybody like trying to report us or anything like that. And then they find out, oh, the princess is here. Oh, we got to go save her. And then Han's like, no, I'm not doing that. It's like, oh, but she's rich.
I do like money.
Yeah, I do like money. It's really cool. The younger people are like, so like amped up to be able to do this, or they got so much energy going about this. There's the cynical person and the optimist. And then when they like go into the detention center and like Han talks onto the speaker, it's so funny.
Oh man, Harrison, some of the Mad Lib Harrison Ford stuff, just unreal.
Oh, so good.
How are you?
Yeah. How
are you?
And he's affecting his voice somehow. It's like, yeah, everything's good. Situation normal. The other scene that always watching this movie is when they go into the trash compactor. That's another moment you got to just stop the movie and just be like, or not stop the movie, but stop doing whatever you're doing to sit down and watch it, because that's just so funny, so great.
Man, it's crazy to think of also too, like that this sequence here, like the whole Death Star thing, is really some of the most on-screen time you get with when people think of Star Wars. They think the big three actors. It's like the most on-screen time that they really get together.
Yeah.
In all the other movies.
Oh yeah.
Because even like Empire Strikes Back, like you get we'll talk about that later, but you only get a little bit at the beginning. Then, yeah, Luke goes off, does his own thing. They go off to Cloud City. Like it's
Yeah.
Well, then, it's crazy when you think about it that way.
This scene, yeah, it's so important, like this entire sequence, because this is like really the only time they will be together. And so you really have to build up their dynamics, and it does it so well. Like the hot-headedness of Han, the hero aspect of Luke, the the kind of sniping back Leia. She's kind of like, I've always been thinking about what Leia's character is, and she's kind of like the reality check person. She's like making sure everybody just understands, we got to get out of here. We got to stop like
like how did they get in the trash compactor? She took one of their guns and shot her own way out.
Yeah.
Some rescue. Like it's
somebody's got to save our skins.
She may be a damsel, but she's not in that much distress ever.
No, she's no, not at all. Not at all. But going back to it, with the younger people are going through this big action thing, it's also cool to see like Obi-Wan, he is this all-powerful being. We've seen him like do Jedi mind tricks, cut a man's arm off. And what's he doing? He's sneaking around this battle station. He's just sneaking around to shut off the tractor beam. It's the most important job, but he's not drawing any attention to himself. He's not showing. He's basically just this humble person who's like, I can do this. Like, I'm really powerful. I could just go around this whole place. But I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to do this. Yeah. And that is so awesome just to see that with all this other crazy stuff that's going on. He's just able to get in and kind of
He's
out.
Such a badass. He's such a badass.